archivists, y'all, exclusively reuniting with the legendary Souls of Mischief crew for the 30-year anniversary, 93 till infinity. And we're here, 50 years of hip hop, y'all. Thanks so much for being able to do this with me. I'm completely honored. It's been many years since I got together with you guys again, and now we got you here. It's amazing. And of course, Phesto will be here later, so it'll be awesome. All right, and let's continue. And who is the hip hop icons of Oakland, the Souls of Mischief?
You know, we're just a crew of friends, you know, been hanging out from the same neighborhood in East Oakland, grew up with a mutual love of hip hop and dabbled in graffiti and breaking and all that, but really rapping is what stuck, and we've been doing it for a long time together. And I mean, you know, now 30 years after our album debut, we're here, but we've been friends probably for about 44, 45 years.
And the Syndicate, Thieves, the Hitman. A+, you came up with the name?
The name Souls of Mischief? Well, yeah, so we had other names prior to Souls of Mischief. And around the time we were getting our deal and getting a lot of interest from record companies, Dante Ross, a friend of ours now, family, suggested that we should change our name because it was our prior name was kind of old school. So we were all kind of just building and coming up with a bunch of names, and we were brainstorming for what seemed like weeks, maybe trying to come up with a name. So although I came up with Souls of Mischief, it just popped out one day. It was a culmination of us going through hundreds of names trying to figure out which one would stick. One day I just said Souls of Mischief, and everybody was like, yeah, that sounds like it. So it was really, you know, the vibe of us all just trying to put our brain into what would describe us as a group at the time.
CIA with Ice Cube and Sir Jinx carving a demo in '87 and beatbox in '88 from the Taxi theme Cab Fare on a 4-track.
I mean, I wasn't there for the Sir Jinx episode, you know what I mean? So y'all brothers might be able to speak on that a little bit better.
Well, working with Sir Jinx, that came about from Dell's relationship with his cousin Ice Cube, and Jinx and Ice Cube being in the group together and being old friends from the same neighborhood. And so, because Tajay and I were in a crew with Dell, basically. We were like the younger guys in the group. And Dell would go down and record songs with Sir Jinx, and him and Jinx were a group. And so after, you know, at some point, Tajay and I were going down there with Dell to record songs, and, you know, that's kind of how we first got introduced to really being in the studio and understanding how songs are constructed and stuff. Yeah, the Taxi thing, I was record shopping one day and I saw that record, and I was like, as soon as I bought it, I was like, that would be dope to do a song to the Taxi theme. That's immediately what I thought when buying the record. So I made the beat, and then the Souls sat together and figured out how to construct the song. And that was on one of our earlier demos that garnered a lot of interest from labels with that song. And it ended up coming out as a demo and releasing and being one of those classic Souls demo songs that floated around.
And beatboxing in 1988?
No, the beatboxing was before that. It was probably 86. Like, I think my dad got me a radio for my 6th grade graduation, and we had some bowls that we would beatbox into in order to create reverb.
Yeah.
Sort of beatbox back and forth to make
into the big mixing bowls, like the steel mixing bowls, beatboxing into that to create some kind of like what we thought would be reverb from kids who didn't really have any idea how reverb on songs were created, but we're trying to find MacGyver-like ways to recreate that sound that we had heard on songs. We didn't know how to make songs yet, but we knew we wanted some reverb.
And 1991, The Wake Up Show, The Experience, and then Sway in the Morning shares a group on some of your best Bay Area hip-hop moments that you've all ever had.
My stepfather is a very well-known entertainment attorney by the name of Michael Ashburn. He's represented countless people from Richard Pryor, Roberta Flack, Taj Mahal, Ice Cube, High Road Souls, the list goes on and on. And he also represented Sway and Tech when they were putting music out and doing records. So I think somehow I finagled my way to get onto the radio show and kick a rap, you know, back then. So I was kind of coming in with my step pops on his, you know, on his coattails. And, you know, Sway and Tech was just gracious enough to let me do my thing. I mean, I was still in high school. So it was a dope experience, you know. I mean, we was all hungry to be heard, and just anything that we could do that had anything to do with hip hop. I mean, we were like, you know, we was hopping fences to get into 21 and over clubs because they wouldn't let us in the front door because we didn't have ID. You know what I mean? So where there was a will, there was a way, and that was one of those, you know, things of that nature. Where it's like he wasn't necessarily like, yo, make sure you come over here and kick a rap. I just, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, can I go to the radio show with you and rap? So yeah.
And A+, give us something that the fans have never known. We never got to meet with you last time, which was over 13 years ago. What was the inspiration behind the beat, 93 Till?
So that's 2 questions, yeah?
Yes.
All right, something that you've never known is that was a DJ first. There was this guy in our neighborhood named Trevelyan, and people called him Chewy. People didn't call him Chewy yet, but he was a DJ at the time, and I was an aspiring DJ. And this is like, I want to say this is like 6th, 7th grade, some shit like that. I didn't have turntables yet that were like scratch worthy, but I was developing a nice record collection, and I let him see my collection, and he thought it was dope. And he was DJing the house parties, so he let me go to the house party. But I was super young. It was like a super hood house party. And I kind of went with him and watched him DJ. And kind of learned a little bit more about DJing from that. Now, he ended up completely not messing with hip hop later. Like, this was, again, like 6th grade, maybe even 7th, around that time. But, so yeah, and I ended up continuing learning how to DJ from that moment, and I ended up getting some turntables, finally learning how to scratch, and then that's how come I already knew how to scratch by the time we made the Souls of Mischief album. I did all the scratches on that album, and by that time I was really focused. But it was years later, I was focused more on MCing and making beats, but I was already adept at scratching from all that time being a DJ. Now, I'm not really known as a DJ in any way at all, but I did do all the scratches on Souls of Mischief album. I did some scratches on Dell's album as well, his 2nd album, and probably some other stuff too. I think I did some I did a really minor scratching on Casual's Truck Driver album. So that's one thing that people don't really know about me. Also, to answer the second question, the inspiration to making the 93 Till Infinity beat was that Souls of Mischief were in the middle of making that album, and it was just such a dope vibe for us to be in there. We finally got a record deal. We're in the studio with a budget from the company, recording our album. This is just like a great time. And after our studio sessions, I would just go home and make beats off of that vibe. Like, we worked all day in the studio, then I'd go home and just make beats still on that vibe. Because that's all I did anyway, was just make beats all the time, in the midst of hanging with friends and stuff. So I just went home, I made a couple beats after one of our sessions, and we were close to the end of recording the album as well. And yeah, that was the inspiration. I made a few other beats as well, and I thought they all were dope. That's just the one that stood out to everybody that so much that we made a song to it. But it wasn't any grand, like, oh, I made this beat, this is gonna be huge, I can see the vision. It wasn't like that. I liked the beat a lot, and I actually thought Pep Love would sound good on it. And I kind of let him have it in a way, just right after making it, like, oh, I think I should give this to Pep Love. But so the inspiration to making the beat was really just the vibrations of us recording that album and kind of the mode we were in. It was just, you know, and you know how I found that sample is already out there in the world. I found it by looking at Step in the Arena by Gangstar, looking at their sample credits, and I saw that Premier had sampled that album, so I kept my eyes open for that album whenever I went to the record store to dig. And I didn't have a lot of money, so I can only spend a couple dollars on a record, and I found it, and that's how I found the sample. So that's that, long story short.
And Eazy-E wanted to sign you guys. Later, you toured with De La Soul and A Tribe Called Quest. Those are some major staples.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just fortunate to have come up in a time where there was a lot going on with California. I think Jive Records, the record label that we were on, to their credit, knew that the Bay Area had a lot of good talent. I mean, they had signed Too Short, Spice One, and us. So us being label mates with KRS, with Tribe Called Quest, Tribe actually asked specifically for us to be able to open for them. So that's like huge. I mean, that's like them sort of not being egomaniacs about this, you know, saying, hey, there's a new good group and we like them and they're on our label. This benefits everybody. And I mean, the rest is history. I mean, we're still out on the road based on the things we learned from them too.
As far as Eazy-E signing us, you know, Jinx is Dre's cousin, and so they knew about, Dre knew about the music that Ice Cube and them were making and Jinx were making, and we were like one of Jinx's groups. So he played our music that we were making. It wasn't much music, but Eazy-E was really interested in like, oh man, look, that kid group is dope. Like, that would be dope. Let's see what else they can make. Like I'm interested in them. What happened was Cube ended up splitting from NWA, and so Del was aligned with Cube, their cousins, and so we were aligned with Del. So any kind of interest that Eazy-E may have had at the time, or Dre or anybody, was over at that point, and then Del ended up rolling with Cube. But Eazy-E was definitely like ears open, listening to, interested in us. Yeah, because I guess the novelty of us being young and being super like rapidy, you know, we were like trying to get on. We were like, you know, little kids with bars. So yeah.
And we made it to celebrate 30 years since 1993 till infinity, sharing the legendary album and the tour, always selling out shows across the world starting February 26th, UK, Europe, USA, and Canada.
Yeah. Boom. That's where it all started, you know? Yeah. It's been exciting. I mean, it's crazy because the average age of our fans now is about 22 to 25, so it's kind of interesting that people that were born after 1993 are so into it, but it's just fresh, you know? And it's really heartening to know that we're, you know, working on another generation of hip-hoppers and bringing them into this.
And anything you can elaborate on the album that no one would know about yet in history?
There's a bunch of songs that ended up coming out later through different means that were all recorded in the same session with the rest of the songs that made it to the album. There's songs like Good Feeling that came out on like oldies or maybe a B-side or something somehow. Break a Leg.
Our Secret.
Our Secret. I think there may be another song or two. I thought there was like a total of like 5 songs that ended up not making it on the album. Souls of Mischief, the actual song Souls of Mischief. The song, the original Batting Practice.
We wanted that to be our first single.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it didn't work out because of sample clearance. And I think it really changed the trajectory of our career. So it's kind of cool that we did come up with That's When You Lost as our first single.
Also, That's When You Lost was originally a song called Lost in the Maze of the Rhythm.
Suckers.
And that was a song that Del lost the beat on one of our original demos, Lost in the Maze of the Rhythm. And we were going to record that for the Souls album. It was a really good song, but Del lost the beat. And so he gave us another beat, and we ended up making a completely new song. The only thing that was still the same was... No, wait. Am I tripping?
That's When You Lost?
Yeah. That's When You Lost. The scratch, That's When You Lost was the only thing that was still from the old song,
Yeah,
Lost in the Maze of the Rhythm. Everything else was, the raps were new, and the beat was new. That's something that a lot of people don't know. And that song, Lost in the Maze of the Rhythm, is around somewhere. It's on our demo that may have leaked, so, yeah.
And No Man's Land, another classic in 95. Let us know about this. And how was the 20th anniversary?
Well, this record is important for me because I think it was the first time that I got a production credit on an album. So I had been making beats for a while, but I never had really the talent level to really put anything out. So this would be the first time that I had something that was released. And it was the first single, Rock It Like That. which actually was a song that me and Pep Love had done together. We were just vibing out on the 4-track at my house, made up a quick group, First Light. We're like, okay, we'll call ourselves First Light, and I think we even had rap names or something. And it was like King Know-It-All or something. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, that song was me and Pep Love at first. And then, similar to like 93 Till Infinity, like I was playing a song and they're like, oh, we gotta use this for the record. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun recording that album. There was a few I was just listening to a skit the other day that just had me cracking up. I think it was called Hotel Motel, where we're like hanging out in a hotel room. Not we, but it's a fictional thing that we just kind of made up. It's like the guy's hanging out in a hotel room with the girl, and some people come and like knock on the door. And they're like, yo, what's up? I want to battle. Let's rap. Let's get a cypher going on right now. I was like, yo, I'm just chilling with this lady right now. Like, just, why don't you guys come back another time? And it was like, oh man, fuck you. I hate you. You don't want to rap with us, blah, blah, blah. And that shit had me cracking up. So there's like things that on that record that I hadn't heard in a long time that had me like cracking up. You know what I mean? Because 93 Till is such a huge album, and kind of just like that year was so meaningful in hip hop that, you know, No Man's Land is not necessarily one that I'm always like thinking about all the time, but I have been revisiting it more and more. I mean, there's like a lot of songs on that album that I do really like. You know, For Show For Real is one that people always talk about and ask us to perform, and there's joints on that record for sure.
And for each of you, where are some of the coolest places you've been to in the world? 28 years and over, now being independent.
Oh wow, Paris, all the, you know, Paris, Amsterdam, London, New York, Chicago, Vancouver.
Greece.
Yeah, Greece was nice.
I mean, Tokyo. That was, because I've always been into anime, and seeing that city just bugged me out. Like, yo, this looks like Akira.
Yeah. One of my favorite places to go ever, still, no matter how many times we go, is Hawaii. I love going to Hawaii. But I mean, every place is special in its own way, you know.
Copenhagen.
Germany. I mean, yeah, everywhere is kind of special.
And let's go into Hyro. Right here, Third Eye Vision, Full Circle, The Corner, and The Kitchen. Elaborate on the collective.
Well, Third Eye Vision is very important in terms of that's our entry point into being independent, which we've remained now for 28 years, I believe, something along those lines. So, Domino was like older than us, is older than us, hella old, nigga. I'm just playing. Domino was older than us, and he had like his own apartment, and we would go over there and just record songs on the 4-track, kind of basically just mess around with songs, freestyle and do different things. And we had a few bangers that we made, and we started to kind of build a momentum. It wasn't necessarily that we went in over there and was like, yeah, these are going to be out songs that we're going to use on the album, but we were just working. Like, we weren't on a record label, and started to build up some nice momentum. We were just building a vibe, like over at Domino's house and making these songs. And we had a couple other songs here and there that were sprinkled around or whatever, but I think that was like the genesis to that album actually finally being made, you know? And I think one of the most interesting things about that record is that the producers, A+ and Domino in particular, had made all these amazing songs for us in the past as just on our classic albums or whatever. So like 93 Till Infinity is obviously like a huge hit for Souls of Mischief. And then the big song from that album is You Never Knew. You know, that song was just like crazy. And, you know, Dom made all these amazing songs for everybody. Then he also made At the Helm for Dell, which is another huge song on that record. So there was like a continuity from all of the albums that people had heard and songs that they knew and loved. You know what I mean? That was on that. Yeah, that's later.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just talking about Third Eye Vision. But yeah, for sure. Third Eye Vision was definitely very important for us because that is where we started Hieroglyphics Imperium. Steering the heat.
Anything else to elaborate on the corner or full circle?
I know the corner, there's the corner, the building, and the kitchen.
Okay.
And those are more like mixtape compilations of what we're working on in between albums, you know. Whereas Full Circle is an more official horror album. What's cool about Full Circle is we rented a house that was a former gas station in Venice, and we lived together for a whole summer and recorded that, you know, go out to the beach, chill at the house, record, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
So we all the Hyro lived together in one house. It had fleas though, because they had a cat.
Yeah, it was 2 blocks from the beach. Souls of Mischief had just, where we recorded Full Circle, Souls of Mischief had just returned from, it was our second trip to Japan. I think it was our first trip to Australia. Yeah, I believe so. And like you said, Hieroglyphics rented a house in Southern California, in Venice Beach, and we all just lived in the house and recorded. It was dope.
And Trilogy Climax Resolution. Elaborate on this project.
Oh man, that well, the album cover was fun to shoot. I'll say that much. You know what I mean? I think we're shoving my stepdad Michael Ashburn into the car, and you know, Tajay's famous orange and white Scout. You know what I mean? Made an appearance in there. But yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's interesting about that is we made a trip to one of our European tours that we had done. We had met up with a really incredible producer, Tommy T from Norway, Oslo, and he just like blew us away with all these beats that he had. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like we had no clue that we would ever meet anybody of that stature in Oslo. And he's still a close friend of ours to this day. But he made some really dope beats that we used on that record that I think, you know, I'm not sure if a lot of people even know that, you know what I mean, that we had this guy from Oslo, Norway, producing with Souls of Mischief. And he's dope, you know, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Tommy T.
Any other highlights in regards to that album?
It was the Souls of Mischief first, like real full release on Hieroglyphics Imperium label. It actually did really well selling it independently. It was definitely a transitional time. It was like, you know, phasing into the reality of being 100% independent. And it was dope. Yeah, I think we recorded a lot of that at Tajay's studio, right? Isn't that where we recorded that?
Yeah, Studio 762.
Yeah, Tajay had built a studio with someone else, and we recorded that album at that studio. Spent a lot of time there.
Am I tripping, or did we go on like a camping trip before we started recording that record?
I think we did go on a camping trip at one point. I think it was that time.
I don't know if it was before or during that album.
Was it just us three?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And Scout, huh?
Yeah.
I think all of us went.
I feel like
Was it all of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember we had this gun out there because we were camping.
That's what made me real.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. I think we took shrooms and shit.
Yeah, we took
Oh,
shrooms.
yeah, we definitely
We were in
did
the
that.
Scout. We were in the Scout.
Yeah.
It was raining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Montezuma's Revenge with the legendary Prince Paul at his place for over a month. Elaborate on the moments and highlights.
I mean, we basically kidnapped Prince Paul and took him way out to the middle of nowhere, close to Point Reyes, which is a beautiful coastal region of Northern California, about an hour from San Francisco. I don't think he had ever been to any place like that ever. You know what I mean? we grew up in Northern California, and so we're kind of like used to being in those kind of like dusty little cabin style homes or whatever. But you know, to have the opportunity to work with Prince Paul, it was incredible. It was like it felt very much like a culmination of just so many elements all coming together, because he was someone that we always looked up to in terms of just how he puts albums together, not necessarily just his strength as a producer, but he felt like he made complete projects, and he's funny, and he's just this wealth of knowledge. And he started when he was young, similar to us, you know what I mean? So like we had a lot in common, and I was on tour with the Handsome Boy Modeling School, like as an opener, and I had a lot of opportunities to hang out with Prince Paul and just kind of just pick his brain. Anytime I'm around somebody like that, I'm just gonna be like asking him a million questions, and he was very gracious in answering everything. And at the end of the tour, he was like, "Yo, man, I want to record an album with Souls of Mischief." And I was like, that was like the one thing I didn't want to ask, you know, because I didn't want to be like, "Man, you should record a record for us." Like, it just felt like intrusive. But he suggested it, which was just, you know, that shit just warmed my heart. I mean, it was basically a no-brainer. It wasn't like I was going to go back to Souls of Mischief and be like, "Yo, Prince Paul wants to record a record," and they would be like, whatever. Like, I knew people were going to be excited to hear that. So that was like, I mean, I was just jumping up and down. You know how you have like really good news, you can't wait to tell people, that type of thing? It was exciting. Working with him, I mean, I feel like one of the things that we wanted to do on that record in particular is that we wanted to involve everybody. So like I was producing, so, you know, I made beats on there, A Plus made beats. We definitely wanted Domino in the mix too. And then, you know, Prince Paul was kind of like the captain of the ship. He kind of helped to pick some of the production style that we done. He actually played like bass lines and stuff on some of the stuff that I produced. So, I mean, that I always will cherish that memory, because we were just like kind of cooped up in the middle of nowhere. We made sure that we got far enough to where we didn't have any distractions, but we were close enough if there was an emergency we could get back. And, you know, it was like we were just all by ourselves with one of our, you know, an idol, you know, and to just have those, we really formed like a bond and a brotherhood. I feel like we had a dope energy at that spot when we were making that record, and it was a lot of fun.
And there is Only Now, produced by Adrian Young.
Yeah.
There is Only Now, featuring Snoop. And Locust, how did these go? You guys are icons. How was the GGN experience?
There Is Only Now. That's a dope album that the Souls of Mischief made, that was produced entirely by Adrian Young. He's an incredible instrumentalist, producer, songwriter, all extraordinaire. The way that happened was, it happened through Twitter, because somehow I got linked into a conversation on Twitter, a thread on Twitter that was between like Salam Remy and Adrian Young and whoever else was in the thread. And I was already following these people because I was already aware of who Adrian Young was and his music he did with Black Dynamite. Somehow I got pulled into it. They were talking about who would want to do an album with Souls of Mischief. I think Salam Remy would said something like, "I would do an album with Souls of Mischief. They're dope." And Adrian Young was like, "I'll do an album with Souls of Mischief," or so. I can't remember the exact verbiage. But I got tagged in it, and I hopped in there, and I was like, "Well, we would love to do an album. Let's talk about it." And so I got on the phone with Adrian Young, and that's how we met, on the phone, basically, through Twitter. And we had the conversation. Long story short, we ended up recording the album with him in Southern California, where he lives at his studio, and where it's all analog. And, long story short, we made the album with him. It's an incredible album. It was amazing working with him. There's a lot about that album that's really interesting because it's a story album that we basically wrote and performed, but it started from a real event that happened. And it was Adrian Young who kind of brought it out because he sat down with us and he was like, so when we were thinking about what to make the album about, he asked us about experiences that we have had and just kind of just getting to know us and asking us about like wild hip hop experiences and just however the conversation came up. It came up that about this one experience where Domino had almost got shot and we were getting shot at, and this happened in real life. And when we were telling Adrian that story, he was like, that's what we should make the album about.
What year was that?
94. The year that the incident happened was 1994. Around this time we were having this conversation with Adrian, it was like 2013, 2014, around there. And when he heard that story, he was like, that's what we should make the album about. The first half of the first song on the album is us rapping an actual event, how it happened. From the second verse on, it's all a fictional story that we had then constructed with Adrian Young guiding everything musically and being the musical director, basically. It was an incredible album to make. I'm sure the fellas got stuff to say about it. It was quite an experience. We lived down there in Mount Washington, Southern California. We actually stayed at our friend Scarab's house. Scarab lived in the same neighborhood and he knew Adrian Young prior, and he had a house there that could house all of Souls of Mischief while we were there. He had so shout out Scarab from Living Legends. He let us stay at his crib, which was less than a mile away from Adrian Young's house. And it was a good experience, us, the Souls of Mischief, traveling down there to record with him and seeing his recording technique with all of the instrumentation. And yeah, Adrian's a genius and a brother and a family member or brother.
Oh, it was just a great time. I remember just spending time with the music, like not worrying about a bunch of other stuff. I mean, I think I was in grad school, so I had a couple assignments to do, but aside from that, it was just like spending all day in the lab, making music with musicians who were also making the actual music. It's a different experience than maybe just rapping the beats. And I think it brings a different character out of you as far as how you approach the music making.
And GGN with Big Snoop Dogg. What strain were you guys smoking then?
Probably some purple variant, right?
Whatever it was.
Granddaddy era. That was like
Yes.
a granddaddy era.
I had gotten over a cold, but the cough is the last thing to go when you have a cough. Sometimes you can be completely through with the cold, but you still have kind of a cough too. But I didn't want to not smoke on GGN, so I was like a lot of that interview I was trying not to cough, and I don't know if you know that feeling from when you're trying not to cough, but you're in a place to where you can't be coughing. We're on camera, it's live and shit. So I was just sitting there trying not to cough, and I still wanted to smoke, so I was taking little small ass puffs of the weed. That's something that nobody would know from that interview, is that I was sitting there like, who's going to not smoke with Snoop Dogg on his platform? And I remember looking back, I was taking some baby ass hits of that shit. No one knew that I was sitting there struggling like, don't cough, the camera's on. But yeah, it was super fun being interviewed by Snoop.
And the collaboration?
Yeah, I can't remember if we did his show first or after we recorded. I don't know if you remember, but yeah, I mean, the thing about Snoop is there's a certain thread that just kind of goes through that era of hip hop that we are all a part of. You know what I mean? So there's like Wu-Tang Clan, Snoop, Souls of Mischief. There's just a lot of people that were all making music at that time, you know what I mean? And so now when we kind of reconnect with some of these artists that have gone on to make, I mean, they're just in another stratosphere. You know, Snoop Dogg is probably like the most well-known rapper on the planet Earth. You know what I mean? So, but he still is cut from that cloth. Like, he's an MC. I don't think people really understand that about Snoop. They look at him as more like an entertainer, or, you know, he's just such a huge superstar. It's hard to, give him his just due. But like, we sat around and told him this pretty complex story about what this record was about and all these different characters and blah, blah. And I mean, we didn't spend that much time, maybe 20 minutes and smoking the whole time or whatever, and he kind of just absorbed all of the information that we told him and laid down this crazy verse that was like incredible. I mean, I was like, damn, this dude. I'd never worked with Snoop, but he's always been one of my favorite rappers. You know what I'm saying? He just has like this smooth voice, and he just has so many songs that always bring me joy. That it was like I was jumping up and down in the studio just hearing his kind of buttery, smooth voice coming through these analog mics and everything. It was a dope experience. And I will say this, like, we had some subpar trees at the time for whatever reason. We are from Oakland.
I don't think we even had any.
I feel like we had some booth. And he was like, yo man, like, I see what y'all working with. And he like gave us like a blunt or something.
He gave us a bunch of blunts. He gave us like a
man, and it was.
A
I was like, damn, that shit is fire. Yeah, so he, Snoop be really working with some real bomb, But yeah, shout out to Snoop Dogg, man. That dude is a legend.
And 50 years of hip hop for each of you. Your best hip hop memory that you've been part of or contributed to.
Ooh. I would say one of my favorites would be being on the Tribe Midnight Marauders cover. That was big because they didn't have to do that. They put us up with, luminaries, you know what I'm saying? Grandmaster Flash, those types of guys. And then meeting them at the actual photo shoot, because it was a physical photo shoot that we did, was really cool because we found out that a lot of them were fans as well. And, to hear like Grandmaster Flash knows who you are, let alone as a fan, is mind blowing. So yeah, being on the Midnight Marauder album cover for me.
And for you, Opium?
Man, there's so many. I mean, I think I would fast forward to a new experience that I had. I love to perform, and New York is definitely one of my favorite cities because it is the mecca, the birthplace of hip hop. So it's always been an important place for me. And I've performed most of the time in Manhattan, and also recently we've been doing more stuff in Brooklyn. But I had an opportunity to go and do like a park jam in the Bronx, which was just a whole other experience. It was like more finesse, nice and smooth. The lineup was crazy. Special ed, and the energy performing at a park jam in the Bronx is like unlike anything that I had ever experienced in New York, but just ever, period. It was like this. The audience was very much like me. Like they were all fans of all of the songs that we all know and love, and they know the lyrics to the songs. It's like I'm not used to seeing that much. These are not just rappers. They're like people that just love hip hop because they're from the Bronx and they grew up there, and they have a way more of a connection and an understanding about music and just that energy that was there. And I don't know, it was just like it was a diverse crowd, but it wasn't like a lot of white people. It was like, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, a whole host of different Caribbean. The energy was just crazy. And they were certain things, like they were selling these nutcrackers, which are like these mixed drinks that they make that I had never had. I wasn't drinking at the time, so I didn't enjoy one. But I felt very honored to even be able to perform. And I actually got, a good response from the crowd. It was dope. I was there with Breakbeat Lou, and he's from the Bronx. You know what I mean? He had CNN following him around, recording and doing different things, and so and he was DJing, and he brought me out to do a song. I was like, this is incredible. You know what I mean? It was like a dream come true, basically. So that was amazing for me.
You A+.
Man, there are lots and lots of those, man. I guess something I could say that's pretty special is Souls of Mischief's involvement with Hieroglyphics during all the Hiero Day festivals. Hiero Day is a festival that Hieroglyphics has been throwing in Oakland, a block party type / festival, and we've been throwing it for 10 events in 10 years over in Oakland. Souls of Mischief being a chunk of hieroglyphics. Like we're almost 50% of hieroglyphics between us four. We play a part in that experience with hieroglyphics. Those days of how much it had grown from it just being a very small block party, and over the years just being thousands of people there, just seeing it grow like that and seeing the hometown support and all of that has been pretty special. It's a little bit different than going out as Souls or going out on the road as us going with hieroglyphics. It's a different experience when you're at home and you're doing something at home, the home crowd, and you're the home team. It's a different vibration than when you're going out to other places, and those have always been pretty special. Also, friends and family get to come to these events. People you grew up with that you don't see much. It has a different kind of air to it. So although all of these experiences are dope to me because I love this job and I love doing it, it's hard to call it a job, but it is actually a lot of work. But I love all those experiences, but this is just one that's a little different and it stands out for me.
And past the pandemic, streaming and today versus the CD, record, tape, huge numbers online. Absolutely incredibly amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think all our new fans are from streaming. They're not from buying records. They're from either hearing them from their parents or their older siblings, or it's just from streaming, you know? And I know this because they know all the words to, like, the second verse of 93 Till Infinity, which isn't on the video version. So it's like a lot of them haven't seen us or only have seen us through YouTube and all this kind of stuff. But streaming, I mean, really got us recouped with the record label and all that kind of stuff. I mean, more so than hard sales. So it's been great. It's really been good to be introduced to a new generation of listeners, because I mean, the same way like we grew up listening to Curtis Mayfield and Stevie Wonder, Bobby Womack or whatever. That's how we are to them, and it's really cool to see the next generation come up, and that's because they're in control of what they're going to listen to. If we had to rely on the radio, we would have faded away a long time ago. We only have one song on the radio, like literally one song on the radio. But they know our demo songs and our B-sides and all that, and that's because of streaming. So I'd say we're way bigger now than ever, even though we're probably less visible now than when we were on MTV and Soul Train and VH1 and all that stuff.
And Brighton Fest, Rock the Bells, over 50,000 people. Is there a larger crowd than that you guys have ever rocked?
Is Brighton Fest, was that the
UK? That's in the UK?
Is that the one that had Lee Scratch Perry and James Brown? Which one was that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, huh?
That was
we brought the super big. I feel like the biggest crowd was in San Francisco at that time, when they were building they had the parking lot and they hadn't built AT&T Park yet. It was like Rage Against the Machine was headlining Rock the Bells.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It was a massive crowd that was out there, and it was in our hometown, which was incredible. So we just got like the response was crazy. A Plus had his son on stage.
Yeah.
It was like an iconic show, but that's almost probably over 20 years ago, I think, at this point.
Damn, where's the footage to that show?
You can probably see something on there.
There's a little bit of it, I know, that's on
I remember I had
YouTube.
Bluetooth in my ear, so obviously I was over 30 at the time, so it's not 20 years old.
That might be the biggest crowd, but I could be wrong. You guys could.
I remember I was hanging out with the Conscious Daughters. They had like a trailer or something. They're at that thing, I think. Because the artists and artist people had the cars they could park at a certain. I don't remember. It's hard to remember.
We had a tour bus, I remember.
Why? Because it was at the end of our tour or something?
I think we like rented one or something just to go to that show.
Oh, wow.
Nah, did we? Were we on tour?
Something along those lines.
Memory
be a little foggy, man.
Another big crowd is the earlier Coachella was pretty fucking fat.
Yeah, we did like the second Coachella, I think the fourth Coachella. So yeah, we did those on the main stage too.
Well, we did two shows in Brazil.
Oh yeah,
That
those were
was like
huge
a
too.
massive crowd, like incredible. Like I don't know how many people there was, but it was
Crazy.
huge.
And checking out.
And Phesto Dee will be here tonight. Unfortunately, couldn't be here. It would have been a legendary moment with everybody together. But shouts out to him and his family, of course. You guys have anything to add to our legendary interview?
Man, thank you for having us here as we celebrate 30 years of 93 Till Infinity, doing this massive tour we've been on. It's been great, it's been beautiful, and Canada has always been really good to us, so we're happy to be here, and good to be back here in Van City, you know.
I'd like to thank all of the people that have come out in mass to come out and celebrate this with us. I mean, I feel like they're just as much of an important part of this journey that we are, and even our friendship and our story is. Even though I'm a part of the group, it's amazing to me to just know, you know, the work that we put in to get to this point. I think, you know, talking about streaming and all that, just like the new fans that we have, the OGs that have been down with us, like they have really kind of opened our eyes to new possibilities even. At 30 years in the game, which is something that I would never have imagined, you know. I was kind of, didn't know what to expect, but it has kind of blown any expectations that I had out of the water. So I just want to thank all of the people that have come out and supported us. This has been probably my most enjoyable tour that I've ever been on. And I've been on a lot of tours, you know, and this is special. So thank you if you've come to a show.
Facts.
And you guys got any shouts?
Man.
Shout out Breakbeat Lou, shout out the architect for rolling with us on this you know, this part of our journey. You know, we got a project out right now. It's called Black Tech with Architect. Working on another one with Breakbeat Lou. So just watch out for new music. Everybody's got a lot of new music.
Yeah.
And shouts to Domino.
Shouts to
Yeah.
the rest of the high
Shouts to Hollywood Theater, Jay Swing, and Vi. And this is the Archivist, and you've been archived.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, Mom.